the 2017 Wall of Honor ceremony to honor the newest additions to the Voorhees Veterans Wall. It's an ongoing tribute that started in 2014.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Michael McNona. I'm privileged to be the mayor of Voorhees Township, this wonderful community. On behalf of my fellow township committee members, Harry Platt, Jason, our deputy mayor, Jason Ravitz, and Mike Friedman, I want to welcome you to the 4th annual Voorhees Veterans Wall ceremony. As we begin our program, I would ask that if you can, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would please remain standing, the winner of our first Voorhees Got Talent contest will be singing our national anthem this evening, Primo Davis.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early lights what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous height for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Primo. Very nice. Please be seated. Thank you. Many of you here this evening are familiar with our Veterans Wall. Some of you may not be, so I'd just like to take a moment to share with you the history of this project. In early October of 2014, a friend of mine who was a veteran and a Voorhees resident by the name of Pete D'Antonio came to me and said, we should really do something to honor our veterans. He was passionate about veterans' rights and advocating for veterans. And I said, that's a wonderful idea. So I took that idea to the person that I knew who was even more passionate about veterans' rights, and that was our municipal clerk at the time, Jeanette Shellberg. Jeanette thought it was a wonderful idea, and from that point on, she sort of single-handedly took on the project, and for her, it became a labor of love. Jeanette spent months gathering information, making lists, gathering pictures by way of telephone calls, by way of letters, by way of emails, putting the word out that we were starting this wall and trying to get as many people involved as we could. Finally, about 7 months later, on October 20th of 2014, our vision became a reality, and the inaugural Voorhees Veterans Wall ceremony took place. On that evening, 234 veterans were honored on our wall with plaques. We made a promise that we would continue the tradition and hope that the wall would grow every year, and it has. In 2015, we added 69 plaques to the wall. In 2016, we added 39 plaques to the wall. and this year we're adding an additional 39 plaques to the wall, bringing a total of 381 plaques on our Veterans Wall of Honor. We plan on continuing to make it an annual tradition. During the time that Jeanette was gathering this information, she would often say to me that there are so many intriguing, interesting, heroic stories behind these plaques. And what we came to learn was that behind every plaque, there's a story. And there's some great stories. For example, the story of Joseph Toy of the United States Army. He served in World War II. He was awarded the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, 4 Purple Hearts. He was a member of the 506th Regiment, 101st Airborne, and he was portrayed in the successful miniseries Band of Brothers. The great story of Anna Marie Furlong Rafferty. In 1948, Congress passed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, allowing women to serve as permanent and regular members of the armed forces. Soon after the act was passed in 1949, Mrs. Rafferty enlisted. She enlisted into the United States Navy, and she was one of the first women to join under the new law. And we're so honored to have Mrs. Rafferty with us this evening. Thank you so much, Mrs. Rafferty, for your service. There's the story of David James Maitland. In 1965, at the age of 19, he was serving in Vietnam, and he was awarded the Air Medal for Distinguished Achievement. In 1967, he was badly injured during his service when his Jeep overturned, and he spent 4 months in a hospital in the Philippines. When he returned back to the United States, he married his lifelong sweetheart, and they had a daughter by the name of Kimberly. Kimberly used to work for Voorhees Township and is a friend. Unfortunately, Vietnam took its toll on David, and he developed post-traumatic stress syndrome, which led to addiction. It took over his life. He lost his family. He lost his job as a Cherry Hill police officer. He tried to get help through the VA, but he was unsuccessful. The demons were just too strong. On June 10th of 2013, David lost his 46-year battle with those demons and took his own life. I share this story with you at the request of his daughter, Kimberly, because Kimberly and her daughter, David's granddaughter, Katie, have become passionate advocates for veterans' rights. They've made it their mission to raise awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide. It's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Unfortunately, for too many of our veterans who return from service, their personal war continues even after they come home. There's the story of the 11 African American soldiers who fought for the Union Army in the Civil War. They're buried right here in Voorhees at Mount Zion AME Church Cemetery on Route 73. And we're proud to have Reverend Jervine Bell with us as a guest this evening. Over 180,000 African Americans served for the Union Army in the Civil War. In 1863, a general order by the United States War Department established the United States Colored Troops, as they were known back then, or the USCT. These brave soldiers suffered racial discrimination, and they were paid about half as much as other white soldiers. The brave soldiers fought many, many important battles in the war, most significantly the assault on Fort Wagner in 1863 in South Carolina. These brave African American soldiers led an assault on Fort Wagner in spite of a strong Confederate presence. The brave battle was memorialized in the award-winning movie Glory. In 1864, Congress finally granted equal pay retroactively to those brave African American soldiers, and this evening we are honored to add them to our Veterans Wall of Honor. This year, we're putting plaques up for 19 members of the Army, 2 from the Air Force, 6 from the Navy, 1 member of the Marine Corps, and our 11 Civil War troops. The Civil War honorees include Robert Gould, Josiah Henry, James Jackson, George Johnson, William Jones, Charles Reese, William Robinson, Alonzo Small, Albert Smith, Isaac Still, and William Taylor. The other honorees being placed on our Wall of Honor this evening include Severino Aguilar, United States Navy, Glenn Allen Barger, United States Army, Paul Victor Berger, United States Army, Howard E. Coleman, United States Army, Richard Colton, United States Army, Lawrence J. Cram, United States Army, Godfrey Arlington Douglas, United States Navy, Henry Lawrence Doobie, United States Army, Thomas J. Flynn, United States Army, John Hofchek, United States Navy, Tamara Elizabeth Hobbs, United States Army, Mark L. Kahn, MD, United States Army, Robert Stanley Locke Sr., United States Army, Orville Liebler, United States Army, Richard Lipp, United States Army, David James Maitland, United States Army, Louis C. McCall, United States Army, and my high school classmate. Joseph Planamonte, United States Navy. Anna Marie Furlong Rafferty, United States Navy. Kurt Schiefley, United States Navy. Edward Silvers, United States Army. Robert Smuro, United States Marine Corps. James Leo Talley, United States Army. Joseph John Troy, United States Army. Charles Turchi, United States Army. John T. Tyler, United States Air Force. Stephen Vanna, United States Air Force. And Joseph Zullo, Joseph John Zullo, United States Army. On our wall, we have 4 very special plaques, and we like to make special recognition of the 4 soldiers who gave the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedom. They are Harry E. Beach, who was killed in action in World War II. George Frank Seish, who was killed in action in Korea, son of our resident Alma Seish Herlock. Robert Alton Williams, killed in action in Vietnam. He's the brother of Voorhees resident April Hale. And Joseph Francis Toner, missing in action in Korea at the age of 19, and our own Jeanette Schellberg's brother. Please join me in a moment of silence for these 4 heroes. Thank you. If you have an opportunity when we move upstairs, please make it a point to look at the plaques of those 4 heroes. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Jervine Bell, who's the pastor of the Mount Zion AME Church in Voorhees. I've gotten to know Reverend Bell over the years because her church puts on a wonderful Memorial Day ceremony every morning on Memorial Day, which I've had the honor to attend every year. She puts a lot of time and effort into it, and the cemetery where the 11 African-American soldiers are buried is right behind her church. So I would ask that you join me in welcoming Reverend Jervine Bell. Okay.
To our mayor and other city officials that are assembled here today. I would like to thank you on behalf of Mount Zion AME Church for your invitation for us to be a part of this extraordinary program. Thank you so much in remembering the colored soldiers in such a way as to commemorate them and the service they provided. My prayer is that we who are here today will want to share this special war with others from years to come. Thank you so much from Mount Zion.
Thank you, Pastor. Let me squeeze by here. Thank you. It's my honor once again to introduce a gentleman who has been a regular part of this ceremony every year. He is a very, very strong advocate for veterans, and he's actually a member of our Veterans Wall of Honor. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Colonel L. Bancroft, USMC, retired.
As we Marines say, hoorah! I won't say what the Air Force or Army says because I never understood it. But as a Marine, I joined the Marine Corps in 1958. Out of the years, math was my best subject, but my brother and I, my twin brother, and I joined. And boot camp was interesting. I call it my room because he only served 3 years. I served 33. But I still like him. He's a good guy. But you know, it's great to be here to honor your veterans. Because you don't often hear too much about something like this. This is probably the best ceremony that I ever attended. And I've attended quite a few. And Mayor, I think you do a great job over here. Got to tell you that I got out as a corporal in 1961. I'll make this quick. I heard the beat of the drums in 1964, so I decided to re-enlist. I lost my rank. I went back in as a private. That's good rank. Just pick up cigarette butts and things like that. But I went to Vietnam right at 3 months after I re-enlisted. First tour. I was going to get it right. I had my second tour. We were with the 9th Marine Amphibious Brigade in 1965. We hit the beach in Vietnam. You know, you look at it and think, how do you do that? Well, you know, you actually get off the ship. Notice I call it a ship. I usually say boat. But we hit the beach. I looked up and there were 20 beautiful Vietnamese women coming down to where we landed and put leis around their legs. I like to read, don't get me wrong, but I thought they really screwed up and put us in Hawaii. I was wrong. It was Vietnam. But I've had a great career. As I said, my third tour was 69 to 70. And came home. I got married in 68. My daughter was 5 weeks old when I went on my third tour. That was tough. That was probably my toughest tour in Vietnam. Came home, she would speak to me for about a year. So when I just tell everybody now, I can't stop her from talking. That's another story. She teaches for a hearing impaired notified honor. My son is a bodybuilder, and everybody says, what happened to you? I said, what do you mean? To be a bodybuilder takes at least 6 hours a day of training. So he didn't join the Corps, and I didn't force it on. It's something you want to do. The good news is my grandson is in his 3rd week of Navy boot camp. I don't know what's wrong, but you know, not everybody can be a Marine. Let's put it that way. But I love these ceremonies, Mayor. Thank you for inviting me over here.
Thank you for coming.
I continue to do it. God bless America. God bless our troops over the better. Be well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Some thank yous are in order. This Veterans Wall has been made possible through some very generous donations, including from Hardenberg Insurance, Environmental Resolutions, Inc., Bowman and Company, the law firm of Wade, Long, and Wood. Very special thanks, as I do every year, to Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class, Jeanette Shellberg. Jeanette, I know you're here. Where are you? There she is, in the white sweater. And a very special thank you to her husband, Corporal Rick Shellberg, USMC, retired. I know Rick is here somewhere too. Where is Rick? Thank you, Rick. They've both made financial and time contributions to make this wall possible, and they've put their heart and soul into it. Rick is actually responsible for placing every plaque on the wall. So if you haven't seen the wall yet, when you see it, you'll understand how precise he is. So Jeanette and Rick, thank you very much for everything you've done for this wall. Finally, before we move upstairs, I just want to say that this project and this wall honoring these veterans is something that is very near and dear to me of all the projects I've been involved in here in Voorhees Township. And the reason it's so special is because what we've come to find out, as I said earlier, is that there's a story behind every plaque. And very often, veterans don't like to tell their own stories. So their spouses or their parents or grandparents or siblings or daughters or grandchildren don't get to hear these stories. And if nothing else, this plaque is an incentive to learn about the service that your loved one gave. And I think that may be the most important thing that we've accomplished, is bringing to light all the heroes who've served, particularly those who have Voorhees connections. So this Veterans Wall is Voorhees Township way of saying thank you, and you will never be forgotten. So again, thank you very much. This part of the program is over. We will now move upstairs and view the wall. Thank you.